The world is getting a bit noisier every day, isn't it? You feel it too. An invisible pressure forces you to belong to one side, to wear a badge, to hide behind a slogan. In the modern age, keeping things private is no longer a right, but a kind of betrayal. If you don't display everything about yourself, you are lacking. If you don't open the doors of your heart wide and let the winds of the digital world blow through, you are suspect. But today, I'm going to tell you something very dangerous. The most revolutionary act you can perform today is not to join a protest, but to write a poem in your inner world that no one can enter. Today, here in this quiet corridor of daily books, we won't be talking about a love story. We'll be talking about why a banned manuscript thrown from an aeroplane in 1957, Boris Pasternak's Dr. Zhivago, was considered the most dangerous book in the world. Dr. Jivago is not a romantic fairy tale set in the snow. It is a crime scene where the victim is the human soul. Pasternak did not write this book to entertain you. He wrote it to tell you what happens when that enormous machine called the state decides to take possession of your heart. If you close this video now, you may never realize how much of your life has been occupied by others. We are not just reading here, we are dissecting the anatomy of the soul. If you are ready, we are entering the freezing cold of the Ural Mountains, the last bastion of privacy, to find the last individual.
So, who is this Yuri Zhivago? A doctor? A poet? Pasternak whispers to us that his name comes from the old Russian root Zhivago, meaning the living one. But to be the living one in an age of collective madness is in itself a death sentence. While everyone around him accepts being a cog in the wheel of an ideology, a party, or a cause, Yuri insists on remaining simply himself. This is not selfishness, it is resistance. Now, think of Lara. Don't see her merely as Yuri's lover. Lara is Russia itself. She is both victim and sacred, both untamable. Lara felt a century ago the fear of being taken over that modern women feel today. To be used by power-mad men like Komarovsky, to be abandoned by ideology-mad men like Strelnikov. Whisper, Lara is our quest for privacy. As history unfolds, the Tsar's pump succumbs to the Bolsheviks' cold and geometric justice, while Yuri and Lara try to build their own Varinkino in the snow. It is not a house, but a refuge for the mind. Outside, the world burns. Inside, a room warmed only by poetry. Where is your Varinkino today? Is it your phone, or those deep thoughts no one can reach? As the Daily Books community, we gather in those dark, safe corners the system cannot decipher, because only in that corner can you truly be someone who lives.
Yuri Jivago's story begins not in an orphanage, but in the ruins of an empire. While Pasternak introduces us to a medical student, he actually lays bare the greatest dilemma of modern man, the never-ending battle between rationalism and the soul. While learning to dissect the human body at medical school, Yuri realizes that a corpse is not merely muscle and tissue, but that each cell is connected like a line of poetry. This is the truth behind what we now call the cold wall of scientific data. In the freezing Russian winter, Yuri searches for meaning, for a divine touch, even in the cells under his microscope. As the bloody footsteps of the 1905 revolution echo through the streets of Moscow, Yuri is not in the midst of conflict, but at the center of a search for meaning.
What makes him different? Pause. While everyone around him burns with the desire to change the world, to tear down systems and establish a new order, Yuri simply wants to see the world. This is not passivity, it is resistance to the blinding light of ideologies. By portraying his character as a poet, Pasternak reminds us, words are not weapons, words are a refuge. Yuri's early youth passes between the sharp scalpel of medicine on one hand and the soft touch of poetry on the other. Just like the characters in Donna Tartt's The Secret History feel a melancholic passion for the ancient world, Yuri erects an aesthetic barricade against the soullessness of modernity. When the First World War erupted, he did not go to the front merely as a doctor. He stepped into that hell as humanity's last representative. And right there, amidst the smell of gunpowder, he encountered Lara. Not just a woman, but the wounded, proud, and uncontrollable spirit of Russia. To understand her, you must see the dark shadow opposite her, Pasha Antipov, also known as Strelnikov. Strelnikov is the greatest tragedy of modern man. He is the man who abandoned being fair in the name of justice. He was Lara's husband, once full of love, once believing in humanity like Yuri, but the blinding fire of the revolution consumed him. He is no longer a man, but a principle. He has changed his face, erased his name, imprisoned his emotions in the cold steel of an armored train. Strelnikov is the embodiment of that dangerous mindset that becomes evil in order to do good. Look at our world today. How many Strelnikovs do you see? How many people around you impose their own truth on others, sacrificing even those closest to them for the sake of an ideology? For Strelnikov, life is a mathematical problem. For Yuri, it is a miracle. Strelnikov wants to fix the world. Yuri wants to feel it. That dreadful thing philosopher Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil is embodied precisely in Strelnikov's flawless discipline. While he tries to fit everything into a mold, he is actually killing the spirit. He claims to love Lara, but he approaches her as if she were a purpose. Yet Lara is not a purpose. She is an existence. That is why Strelnikov can never win, because while he is preoccupied with the geometry of snowflakes, he is blind to the wet sadness they leave behind when they melt. When Yuri and Strelnikov meet at a station, two different types of people face each other, the man of the system and the man of the soul. As Strelnikov's armored train roars along the tracks, Yuri's poems flutter in the wind. Which is stronger, the train or the wind? In the dark philosophy of 1926, Pasternak whispers to us, the train derails, the train rusts, but the wind always blows. Strelnikov is ready to burn the world to save Lara, but Yuri loves Lara just as she is, with all her wounds, all her past, all her mistakes. This is the deepest need of a woman's soul, not to be seen as a project, but to be accepted as a being. At Daily Books, we talk about beings, not projects.
Veracino is not merely a place name, but a time void where those fleeing the clamor of history have sought refuge. Yuri has left his wife and children behind in the hungry, cold chaos of Moscow. Lara has come here, escaping the shadow of her husband, the iron-disciplined Strelnikov. In the eyes of society, this is an affair, an escape, a sin. But in this profound analysis by Daily Books, we emerge from the shallow waters of moralism and dive into the ocean of the soul. In Verikino, Yuri and Lara actually realize the greatest dream of modern man, to leave the world behind. As Pasternak describes this snowy silence, he actually addresses the secret Verikino hidden within each of us. Think about it. In that deserted house, without social media, career ambitions, or expectations of others, if the only thing you had left was your identity, who would you be? Yuri puts his medical bag aside and sits down at his desk. The wolves howl outside, but Yuri's real battle is with the wolves within. He carries the contradiction of being both a devoted father and a destructive lover in the same heart. This is not a character flaw, but the infinite complexity of human nature. Unlike the indifference in Albert Camus' The Stranger, Yuri is hypersensitive to everything. Lara is not just a woman to him, but the wounded, proud, and uncontrollable spirit of Russia. Their love is the last aesthetic act of survival in a crumbling world. While ideologies reduce people to mere matter, these two souls in Verikino insist on seeing each other as meaning. This insistence is the greatest enemy of the Soviet regime, and indeed of any authoritarian structure, because the happy and intimate individual is uncontrollable. Verikino is that small fire beneath the snow, that sacred rebellion the system can never extinguish.
So why does this story resonate so deeply with the female spirit? Because Lara is that ancient archetype who carries the entire weight of history on her shoulders. She has been shared by men, attempted to be saved, and ultimately sacrificed for the sake of ideas. But with Yuri, she is simply herself. She is not a project, but a being. The poems Yuri wrote during those freezing nights in Verikino, the 25 poems Pasternak himself added to the book, were actually written not for Lara, but for the freedom of humanity. Everything is over, says Pasternak in one of his lines. The world is buried under snow. But under that snow, Yuri's ink is still warm. As Strelnikov's armored train roars along the tracks, Yuri's pen moves silently across the paper. Which is more enduring, power or meaning? In the dark philosophy of 1926, we know that systems rust, trains stop, ideologies collapse. But Yuri's poems are still read today, because those poems are proof of how a person can become a giant even in their weakest moment. Verikino's end is tragic. As Strelnikov's shadow approaches, Yuri and Lara's separation becomes inevitable. This is not surrender, but life's merciless irony. To save Lara, Yuri sends her away with Komarovsky, the dark man he despises. This is the greatest and most painful sacrifice a man can make. To sacrifice one's own happiness for the survival of the one you love. It is at this point that Pasternak elevates love from a romantic cliché to a religious level, a trial. As the Daily Books community, we must ask ourselves today, when did we give up on our own Verikino? When did we put down our last piece of paper and pen? Remember, no matter how cold the world outside may be, as long as we preserve that poetry within us, we are still Jivago. That is, we are the living. Now pause for a moment in this snowy silence and listen to your inner voice. What do you hear there? A command or a verse?
After the freezing but sacred silence of Verikino, we return to Yuri Zhivago's final destination, the crowded and soulless streets of Moscow. His voice carries calm authority, emotional restraint, and quiet intelligence. He sounds like someone who has seen enough to speak slowly. After the freezing but sacred silence of Varakino, we return to Yuri Zhivago's final destination, the crowded and soulless streets of Moscow. Yuri is now an old man, his heart weary and, most importantly, superfluous. Pasternak depicts his death inside a tram. Yuri tries to open a window as he suffocates from the lack of air, but fails. This is the metaphor for the modern human, drifting along inside a moving mass, not knowing where you are going and collapsing to the floor while trying to open a window to breathe. So why are we still on this tram in 2026? Today's trams are our algorithms, our work schedules, and our endless notifications. The congestion Yuri Jivago experienced on that tram is actually the spiritual asthma caused by the invasion of each of our personal spaces. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre's words, "Hell is other people," echo in Jivago's world as hell is becoming everyone. Yuri dies as a nobody because he refused to be a nobody. But this nothingness is far more meaningful than history's great and bloody achievements. Can dying be more human than surrendering? I ask you, do you remember those moments in your own life when you tried to open that window but didn't have the strength? In the modern world, this pressure is twice as intense for women. The silent struggle to both conform to the mechanical gears of the system and remain herself, like Lara. Yuri's last breath on the tram is actually the funeral of privacy and individual freedom. But Pasternak does not leave us here in the dark. Yuri dies, yes, but the yellowed papers he leaves behind, those poems of Zhivago, blend into the wind outside the tram. Yuri is no longer a body, but a frequency. At Daily Books, we strive to capture this frequency, because bodies can be imprisoned, but frequencies know no bounds.
Now, let us return to Lara. But this time, let us look at her not through Yuri's eyes, but through her own wounds. Lara is one of the most misunderstood characters in literary history. Those who pigeonhole her as the cheating wife or mistress are ignorant of the anatomy of the soul. Lara has been prey in the hands of predators like Komarovsky, a tool in the hands of idealists like Strelnikov. But she possesses something neither man could attain, the truth itself. Lara is a woman who has passed through pain, but has not become bitter. In today's modern world, Lara's drama continues. Women are constantly expected to perform, a good worker, a good mother, a perfect wife. And in the midst of all this, it becomes almost impossible for a woman to protect her own Varinko, her own secret garden. What did Jivago find in Lara? Why did he love her more than his wife, Tonya? Because Lara smelled like life itself, like soil, like rain, like chaos. Tonya was a refuge, but Lara was a journey. The female spirit always rejects the sterile order imposed by systems. Lara's abandonment of Strelnikov, or Strelnikov's having to abandon her, is actually the ancient jealousy of ideology towards love. The revolution hates Lara because it cannot control her gaze towards Yuri. Psychologically speaking, Lara's attachment to Yuri is not an escape, but a homecoming. Yuri loved not her body, but her story. In an age of modern manipulation techniques and gaslighting, Lara's relationship with Yuri is a healing center. They don't need to talk to heal each other's wounds. It is enough that they are there, in that snowy room. This is what we need most in the noisy digital world of 2026. To be seen, not just as a profile picture, but to be seen in all our complexity, with all our dark sides. As daily books viewers, we seek Lara's quiet authority. Power is not about shouting, but about blooming in the middle of winter. While Strelnikov burns the world, Lara nourishes it. Which is more revolutionary?
When Boris Pasternak wrote this book, the USSR declared him a traitor to the motherland. He was forced to refuse the Nobel Prize. Why? Because Pasternak defended the sanctity of being an individual. At that time, collectivism was everything. Today, popularity is everything. The names have changed, but the mechanism is the same. Conform to society or perish. Jivago's philosophy, in effect, is an attack on Martin Heidegger's concept of das Man, everyone. Heidegger says that when people cease to be themselves and start living like others, they lose their originality. Zhivago is the man who pays the price for remaining original. Now, be honest with yourselves. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you hidden something you truly loved because of what others might say? Through Jivago, Pasternak whispers to us, if the soul has no cause, the body has no meaning. Jivago's poems are his cause. Those poems are stronger than Stalin's labor camps, censorship committees, and the erasure of history. Because aesthetics come before ethics. Something is true because it is beautiful. Now, modern man has turned everything into a consumable object. Love, friendship, and even death. Yet in Jivago, even death is a process of creation. Even as he dies on the tram, he is chasing a verse he has not finished in his mind. This is the greatest insult to modern slavery, which sees life as a project. Life is not a project. Life is a becoming. Pasternak's dark but hopeful work gives us the courage to go into internal exile. Sometimes retreating is harder than attacking. Going to Varikino requires more courage than going to the front, because there you are alone with yourself. There are no titles or cheering crowds by your side, only snow, night, and your conscience. As the Daily Books community, we love this silence, because only in this silence can we understand what Pasternak meant. A person is born inside another person. Yuri was born inside Lara. Inside whom are you born?
As we come to the end of our video, I would like to leave you with Jivago's final line. Life is not about crossing a field from one end to the other. Life is about standing in the middle of that field and savoring the storm. Boris Pasternak told us the story of a heart that beats even under the snow. Dr. Jivago is not nostalgia, but a projection of the future. In this new age where technology tries to take over our souls, Jivago's old-fashioned tram is still on the tracks, and you are the one who will open that tram's window. As you leave this exhibition hall, if you were to take one character with you, which would it be? Strelnikov's strength, Komarovsky's cunning, or Jivago's fragile yet indestructible poetry? Your choice will determine who you are. At Daily Books, we will continue to walk these eerie paths of the soul. If you too are searching for a candle flame in this freezing world, join us. Your subscription is not a statistic, it is a bond of destiny. "It's all over," said the poet. No, in fact, everything is just beginning. The snow is melting and the truth is emerging from beneath. Are you ready? Farewell, but stay awake, for the sleep of snow is sweet, but not waking is death.